And action.
Yeah, so TikTok can suck both inches.
That's really wild. We do violate community standards, though, so, I mean, we're getting taken off of fucking YouTube for, what was it?
The 9/11?
Yeah.
YouTube, TikTok's after us now. Pretty soon Instagram is going to be hating.
Hell yeah.
Fuck them.
Fuck them.
Both inches.
Yeah, apparently you can say fuck you to your imagination.
Yeah.
To your own thoughts.
To your own, like, negative thought process.
Yeah.
You can't just be mad at your significant other.
You can't make a joke about being mad at your significant other for having a dream about them.
Yeah, for having a dream about them having an affair.
Yeah.
So that violates community guidelines.
Totally.
Here's one for TikTok. Shit, piss, funk, cuck, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits, fart, dirty twat. Eat shit.
That sounds like a song. Tenacious D call.
It was George Carlin.
Oh.
He was like the 12 words or whatever you can't say on TV.
Yeah.
Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits, fart, dirty twat. Or was it Blink 182? Can't remember. Either way.
Same.
So with that said, what's up, fucker?
How the hell are you? Getting fucking technical here.
I don't know. The lights have been bugging me.
Oh, yeah.
So when I edit the video and I see myself going like this, and I have to cut away because the light's bright.
Bright light.
That's better. I'm trying my blue lights.
I like that.
Yeah. I know I look like a total poser, but
no.
It's better than like going like this all the time.
You look like you've done some research before in your life. Like
I ate a brownie once.
Yeah.
Unrelated.
Yeah.
So, you want to talk about astral projection?
I do.
Or remote viewing?
Let's do astral projection first.
Okay.
Just because it's the one that I don't know, understand the least about, maybe.
One thing that I find really interesting about the two in comparison is with remote viewing, you have a lot of names of people who are kind of in that field.
Mm-hmm.
But with astral projection, there's none.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of small-time people.
Yeah.
But there's a million videos on YouTube that teach you how to do it.
Teach you how, yeah. And that's I mean, going through all the stuff that we were, planning to do, both of them together, but it was like there's so much stuff in there that we can do two separate, episodes. But yeah, I mean, there's so many people involved in the realm of remote viewing, that astral projection, and really, to me, in the beginning, it seemed like they were the same thing, but they're not.
They're not.
Yeah.
I do see a pretty distinct line between the two, where remote viewing is more like viewing something live and in time,
Mm-hmm.
but astral projection is more like slipping between the cracks.
Yeah.
In a way, it's not limited to a space-time or a person or an object or anything like that.
So does the term astral projection mean that your consciousness is going out of body?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean...
And what about remote viewing?
That one's tougher. Because of some of the stories that you've heard, like, Ingo Swann and stuff, and we'll get into that later, but where they have done these remote viewing exercises and they've been seen in that way. I don't think it's so much as your consciousness leaving your body. I think you're just more vibrationally in tune to a space and time.
Okay.
Versus astral projection is your consciousness traveling.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page then. We're
connected telepathically.
Astrally connected.
Or astrally connected. Astrally connected.
Yeah. Connected. That's gonna get flagged for sure.
Probably. I mean, I still don't get it. Like, how is it, you got women on TikTok showing their boobs and their vagina and shit, but we say fuck you to our imaginary dream, and we're just like, we're assholes.
I think it's probably because, like, if you see boobs or like somebody's ass on TikTok, do you flag it?
No, but who's flagging my shit?
I don't know.
If you're out there flagging my shit, fuck yourself. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Same with whoever flagged the 9/11 video. Or if that was just like
it
the
was
system.
fucking Donald Rumsfeld.
Probably. We talked a lot of shit about that guy. He deserves it. Traitor.
Or Dick Cheney. Using their inside channels.
Yeah.
So yeah, the research on both of these subjects, astral projection, I think it's something that people have been doing forever, without necessarily knowing that they're doing it. Or I think maybe some people did know that they're doing it. I mean, like shamans and these more primitive technological people that we think of as primitive people, using certain things to go out of body and gain knowledge about things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they've been doing, just without having a scientific term for it.
I agree. And I think a lot of those cultures and the shaman, the medicine man, all them who have like a history in it, understood how to do it way before.
Yeah.
And the value of it, but they're not also like technologically limited.
Right.
In a way, because I think we as a society are, because we're kind of bound by, if you can't see it, hear it, smell it, taste it kind of thing, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just like, we're not bound to anything. We're not being taught rules by social media or TV or movies or anything. They just go, like, this is real here and now. And the spiritual experience they have, that's real to them.
Mm-hmm.
But we're so kind of like watered down that we can't see it that way.
Yeah.
Well, most people can't. We can.
Yeah. I mean, those who are awake can see.
Not woke. Not woke. Awake.
Yeah. So yeah, in looking into it, really the study that was the most important study. I think that there's probably been studies before using psychedelics and stuff like that, and the MK Ultra stuff, and they were trying to kind of brainwash people, see if they could use substances to brainwash people. But there was a research group looking into seeing if you could learn while you were sleeping, and this was happening in the early 50s. So there's this guy named Bob Monroe that was doing research studies, and he was kind of doing them on himself. Mm-hmm. And he had a company, but he was doing this, I think he was doing it at SRI, Stanford Research Institute. And so he was trying to learn how to teach himself while he's asleep. Mm-hmm. So like he was listening to these, they're come to be called binaural beats now, different frequencies while he's asleep, so that he can get smarter while he's sleeping. But what it turns out is that he trained himself how to go out of body, have an out of body experience, and I think that they actually coined that term from his research. OBE. So he's doing these studies, and he's right on the verge of going to sleep, and he's thinking about what he's going to do the next day, which is he's thinking about going out and flying in a glider. Mm-hmm. And so he's like laying there listening to these binaural beats, trying to go to sleep so that he can do his teaching while he's sleeping or learning. And he finds himself bumping into something, and he opens his eyes, and it's the ceiling. He's floated up. And he's bouncing off of the ceiling. So yeah, he finds himself bouncing off the ceiling and turns and looks back down to see what's going on and sees himself laying there, and freaks out and kind of like snaps right back into his body. And so it wasn't something that they were trying to do, but it was like a really weird surprise that they weren't expecting. And so it kind of shifted into that being the focus of the training. And, that's what kind of set all of this off.
Clicking out. Which is actually kind of a cool term.
Yeah.
So the way I saw it explained that made the most sense to me was like, if you think about a wavelength, right? That middle space, the length of the wave, is where we live. Mm-hmm. But the wave where it changes directions, that's where you can click out, as they call it. If you're able to gain hemisync, where the two hemispheres of your brain sync together, we talked about it in the dreams, but it's a really cool thing when you look at the practice of it and how feeding into your mind the two different vibrations that appease the two hemispheres of your brain to get them to link together to where you can click out on that, either that bottom or top wavelength. I was like watching this visual representation of it, and suddenly it went, oh shit, I get it. Yeah. I can do that. I can do it.
So have you done it?
No. I only learned about it yesterday.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like, it seems... I think the weird thing about it is that they're able to explain it in a way that's scientific and possible.
Yeah.
Which just opens the door for... And that's what they say is like Bob Monroe, who is the kind of the founder of all these things... he doesn't call himself the founder, but like one of the people that were kind of leading this study. They're saying that everybody can do it. Everybody's capable of doing it. Yeah. It just takes practice and it takes a lot of focus. And so it's like, so you're doing this hemisync wave pattern in that middle section of where your consciousness usually resides, and you're able to go to the top of this wavelength, click out, and then have laser focus and keep your focus straight. So you're going along straight at the top of this clicked out version of reality. And then your consciousness can go anywhere at any...
Yeah, that was one of the cooler things that I was finding in the research was like what people have claimed they've been able to do. Not just visit kind of like an alternate reality, but go in between realities and visit the space in between and see all these just amazing, cool things that even your creative mind can't come up with because it's just too vast and too like complicated in a way. But these people describe it with clarity as though they have seen it with their own eyes. Right. You know, just these really cool different worlds and things like that, or lights and geometric shapes and everything like that. And you're just like, God, I want to try that.
Yeah. And it's really what is fascinating to me about it is like, okay, so you're like on the verge of sleep. You might be going into a dream state, but you're opening your consciousness to a place that you are capable of receiving and transmitting information, which is really crazy. You know, it's just fascinating.
Yeah.
But then you look throughout history, like people who have been considered geniuses have all done this. Like Einstein, Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci was known to only sleep 2 hours a day, but he would be awake for 4 hours, take a 20-minute nap, wake up and work on something for 4 hours, take a 20-minute nap. And so he would do these like, it's a certain name for this like sleep pattern where he was like always on this verge of like wanting to sleep and almost being in a dream state where you could focus on, have laser focus. And I think that's probably what he was doing also. He was tapping into that.
Yeah, what's funny about that is in the past like a couple of months, I've kind of been on that same pattern where I'm awake for 4 to 6 hours and then I want to take like an hour or two nap and then I'm up and I'm refreshed and then I get tired after 4 or 5 hours and I want to take another nap. And I think like biologically that works better for me than just try to sleep at night. Because even when I try to sleep at night, I'll sleep 3 or 4 hours, and I'm up for 3 or 4, and then I go back to sleep kind of early in the morning, and then I get up and I'm awake all day. But then it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm crashing out, I'm tired.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm a genius.
Maybe you are a genius. You got the glasses.
I got the and I'm ambidextrous. Can't forget that one. Fucking the old double twisty.
That's against community guidelines.
Hey, they don't know what I was talking about. I was churning butter.
Yeah. This I'm just celebrating.
Yay! Hey! Double fisting champagne.
Yeah.
I knew what you meant.
But yeah, it's really interesting that everybody's able to tap in. And there's actually, so Bob Monroe kind of developed this process and then started refining it by making different binaural beats that are supposed to help you meditate and reach these states of consciousness where you can do this, and established a place called the Monroe Institute.
Yes.
And anybody can go there. You can go there to learn how to do these things. Most of the things, I mean, there's studies that you can buy online that help you with the meditations, but it's like a week-long retreat type thing, where you go and do all these guided meditations. Every single day you do a series of increasingly more intense meditation things to try to get you to be able to control going out of body. And I watched a few different videos online of people that have gone and done these studies and are now kind of able to do it.
Yeah, the Monroe Institute is really cool. Because for one, it takes a lot of the hoo-hoo thing out of it, where it's like, okay, we're not just looking at this from a spiritual aspect, we're trying to measure it with science.
Yeah.
And make it compute in a way that it's not just like, you're full of shit. It's not like tarot reading. You know what I meant. But where they're trying to actually make it viable and teachable, not just, okay, you as 1 in 8 billion people can do it, but the other 7.99999 billion people, they can't do it, just you.
Yeah.
It's not like, you were splashed with nuclear waste or some shit that gave you a superpower. It's a power that we all have, but we're creating a system to be able to teach it and explore it.
Yeah.
So I think that's super cool. And they also do a lot of the remote viewing training there too, as well as some other stuff. I've actually thought about like looking into it of, hey, a week-long retreat, I could use a vacation.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go. Your ability is just going to be fortune telling. So
Yeah.
they probably have a subclass for that.
I'm not going to be able to go, man. Hey, man, I can't make it.
No, I do think that's really cool. Just in taking away like the stigma behind it,
Right.
to the fact that it's actually a funded and accredited place, not just a weekend camp where they teach you how to read tarot cards kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that is super cool. And I did watch some of the testimonies of people who have went to it and go in kind of like with a super low basis of understanding of it and come out and they're able to actually astral project on a regular basis.
Right.
At will, because they were trained and they were taught. And even Angela Ford, she worked for the government and she did remote viewing and astral projection and a couple other things. She talks about going there and spending time with them and helping teach, some of the students there, and just talking about like, yes, some people are more gifted than others, but it really is something that everybody has the capability of doing.
Right.
It's just the people who do it, well, the people who have done it to help kind of pioneer it just happened across it instead of being taught,
Yeah.
They just learn it by accident.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a lot of the people that were involved with this, I don't really want to get into it with this because they have more to do with the remote viewing side. But that's what they all say is like, and some of the people that were kind of naturally gifted towards this thing that they were studying were people who had already had near-death experiences.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what opened up the gateway for them, which is, got me thinking, like, people that are like tripping, you're like tripping on a substance like a psilocybin or LSD or whatever, is that opening that same because you're like almost ingesting poison to a point.
Yeah.
It's like a different substance.
It's food poisoning.
Right. And so you're seeing these hallucinations that, it's just because your mind is in that same space as somebody who's near death.
Mm-hmm.
And so your frequencies are changing just a little bit to be able to perceive these things. I don't know.
I've thought about that quite a bit, especially when you think about, like, you can take an edible and you'll start tripping, or you can drink too much and start tripping. Like, does that mean you're kind of on the verge of death in a way that you're able to tune into that same frequency?
Yeah.
Because I know I took an edible once and I was like,
I'm dying. Hello, police.
No,
I'm dead. I think I'm dead.
I could not have moved if I wanted to. I was just laying there drooling on myself.
Where'd you get those from? I kind of want one of those.
Well, funny thing was a friend was going to the dispensary and asked me if I wanted anything. I was like, yeah, I'll take some edibles, and like the 25 milligrams didn't do anything. Let's try like a 50. They get back and they give me this bag, and there's like, there was a mix-up. I'm sorry, these are 250. And I was like, I ain't no bitch. Let's go. And so I took one, and fortunately I controlled myself to go like, okay, let this one sink in. It may take a while. Be patient.
I'm going to set an alarm.
Yeah. And so, it took about an hour, and then in about an hour, it was just all at once, and I was just laying there fucking drooling and tripping a little bit, but yeah, it was pretty potent. Haven't taken one since.
Yeah.
I don't even have the bag anymore. I got rid of it.
Throw those in the trash.
Yeah, that was a bit too much for me.
Yeah,
that's what I get for being so arrogant. But and I think it's the same thing when you drink too much, or you drink like a specific drink that kind of puts you in that weird headspace where you're kind of overly imaginative, I'll say. And I kind of wonder if that's just you've poisoned yourself to a certain degree that you kind of are near death.
Yeah.
Just a thought I've been toying with.
Yeah, and it's like you look at musicians, say, for example, like, musicians that are like legendary musicians that went through like a drug phase or like a severe alcoholism phase where they're just like, their music that they were making at this point was so genius.
Yeah.
Is it because they were tapping into that like higher frequency? I think so.
Pink Floyd especially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, what is it, the Dark Side of the Moon?
Yeah.
I swear, like, there's parts of that album that are, like, straight up techno, before techno was even a thing. Like,
no, I agree. Yeah. I mean, even to a degree, like, Queen, were kind of the middle of their catalog was very expressive and much more, like, deep and philosophical. Versus their kind of beginning and end stuff was, the beginning stuff was good, but the end stuff was like the anthems and the stadium songs. But everything in the middle was really their, meat and potatoes there.
Yeah.
But that's also when they were all going through all these tribulations. And same with a lot of bands. A lot of different groups kind of have that where they have that kind of prime golden age where they were getting fucked up regularly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah. And then, like, they get sober, and you're like, their music just isn't the same anymore. Yeah, it's because they're tapped out. They're clicked back in.
Back in and then going back out. Yeah, I mean, case in point for that would be like Metallica, you know, where they had a good 15, almost 20 years where they were just like cranking out awesome music. And then they get older and they all start getting sober, and then their music's still good, but it doesn't have that same like power behind it.
Yeah.
Because it's not infused with substances.
Yeah, which, I mean, if they were getting fueled by Satan, it would never end, like, you know.
True. Satan's just over there like, you know, I lost a fucking fiddle contest once. I want you guys to live.
Yeah. I don't want to suffer that embarrassment anymore.
And he was in Georgia, of all places.
It was in Georgia. I love that song, dude.
No, same.
I've been, you know, I can't really listen to it anymore because I've been chastised for it. Did I tell you about that story?
Remind me, I think you had.
Sure. Kara and I were supposed to be going on a date. And for some reason, we stopped at my buddy's house. And, or maybe I was already there, and she was coming to pick me up. And we were just, me and my buddy were hanging out. I think maybe we got stoned, and we were just fucking sitting there chilling, listening to music. So she comes, and she's like hanging out, waiting for me to come, you know, to leave. So she's just sitting in the front room. And my buddy puts on that song, and me and him were having like an air fiddle battle. Yeah. And so we were sitting there. We listened to it probably 5 or 6 times in a row, having just laughing our asses off, having this air fiddle battle. Finally, I like realized, and I turn around, and she's like just sitting in the fucking front room, just glaring at me. We're supposed to be going out to dinner or whatever. And I'm like, fuck, man, I gotta go. Left, but yeah. So every time I listen to that song, I just laugh about the air fiddle battle that I got.
Have you ever heard the song Beals by Stephen Lynch? He's a singing comedian. And he does this whole song where he's Satan, but he's like a, I don't want to say soft cuddly, but he's very, it's a super funny song.
An emotional Satan.
Kind of, yeah. And one of the lyrics goes, fuck Charlie Daniels, I don't care if he could fiddle, I'm Satan. Then he does the opening riff, boom, boom, boom. And he goes, devil went down to Georgia, he was looking for a stole to steal. He's like, this is fucking bullshit. I would never be caught dead in Georgia. Okay, oh my God. 666 is a good one.
Yeah, I don't know if I've heard that.
Yeah, some of the people who do, you know, the astral projecting, they say they have seen Satan.
Really?
But I have my own like qualms with that, you know, trying to inject religion into the aspect. But again, if you're just slipping between the cracks of different worlds or even visiting a different world, who's to say that Satan isn't real in another world?
Yeah, I mean, I think that no matter what the definitions of all these things are, everything is real. It just depends on what you're defining it from, what side you're defining it from. So it's like, if you're looking at it from a scientific thing, you're seeing these entities as an interdimensional being. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking at it from a religious point, you're seeing it as angels and demons.
Yeah.
I think no matter what you define it as, these things are real. It just depends on what side you're looking from.
Yeah. I think the nomenclature, and you pointed it out with, you know, the autistic kids talking about God and that sort of thing, is the way you described it was, that's the vernacular they use to describe it to us.
Right.
And that's really changed my perception on how I view things like that. Instead of just saying, oh, it's the Judeo-Christian version of Satan that we think about when we hear the term Satan, but maybe it's just the way that person viewed it appealed to them as that version of Satan. But if I looked at it, I would see something different, potentially. So it's the nomenclature you put behind it that kind of gives it that negative connotation, but that's the best way a person can explain it.
Yeah.
So that's really the one thing that I've been able to like look at, you know, with anything that's religiously related to go, okay, maybe it's just their lens that they put it through that shows them, okay, that's Satan or that's an angel or a demon or whatever. But I might look at it as something totally different because I don't have the same belief system as them.
Right.
So,
yeah. And that's what I think that, you know, is so bizarre about this is that, like, instead of talking about these things as being real, these things that are happening to all these people, instead of talking about them as being real, they're fighting about it's the same as religion. Like, they're fighting about the vernacular. They're more caught up in how people are describing these things as opposed to, like, realizing that it's real, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's the more fascinating part about it is that, yeah, they're proving that these things exist.
100%. I don't discredit it being real or fake. Like, to me, if you had that experience, it's real.
Yeah. Even,
you know, when you trip and you see something, that's real.
Yeah.
Just because it didn't happen to me doesn't mean it didn't happen.
What is reality?
Yeah.
That's the question. Like,
if you had a real emotional response to it, why does that make it any less real?
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Yeah.
You know, same with, you know, if you have a daydream, just because it didn't come to fruition in this very real reality, does that make it any less real?
Yeah.
Not to me. You still felt it, you experienced it.
And that's one of the key factors in the training of going out of body is the mantra of practicing the mantra of I am more than my physical self.
Yes.
And so it's like repeating this mantra, I'm more than my physical self, I'm more, you know, making yourself realize that your consciousness doesn't have to be contained in this physical body or physical reality. You can transcend out of that.
Well, and I think there's something really powerful about affirmations as a whole, you know, because you can get up and give yourself positive affirmations that actually propel you forward.
Yes.
Not just help you get through a moment. You could say, you know, I am more than my physical body. I am more than my pain. I am more than my experience or whatever it is. The more you say it, the more you believe it, the more it becomes true. So, with that said, I am 6'3". I am 6'. I'm not. I don't think that's how it works, but I'll keep trying.
Maybe. Who knows? I think that. So I was listening to this other. Or it was a YouTube channel, and this guy was talking about, like, using meditation and even astral projection for, like, affirmations or what is it called when you, like, hope for something and then manifestation. Rather than wanting for it, you just change your perception that you already are that thing, and then it becomes reality. It becomes your reality. So maybe if you just accept that you're 6'3", everybody else will start noticing it.
Yeah, even if I'm not. Are you taller today?
I mean, so that's part of what they were saying was that, like, the conversation is your consciousness being manifested through your brain, or is your brain being manifested, the image of your brain being manifested through your consciousness? So is it if your consciousness is in control and it's like this, everything is a virtual reality, can your consciousness change the reality of what you perceive if you have enough conscious energy power, I guess?
I believe that. I believe if you have a big enough bandwidth and you have enough energy, you know, to fill up your meter, and then you choose, you know, which side it goes to. If you feel that enough, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm going to get a leather trench coat, dude.
Fuck yeah.
Just be fucking Neo from the Matrix. Something's changed.
I can do whatever I want. Doesn't even drive home. Just
reading the code. Whoa.
Yeah, I think the key factor in that is understanding that there is a difference between your spiritual and physical self. You know, and we've talked about or even joked about, you know, you're a being of light driving a meat spacesuit. Okay, the spacesuit's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So where does the being of light go? And if you believe Einstein, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, like, you're going to move on to something else. So the idea that your consciousness or your spirit or whatever term you want to use is able to leave your meat spacesuit and go and tour and do whatever it is you want to do is very simple to me, because I believe those two things already are not connected. You're only bound to your body, is the way I see it. You're not actually controlling it. You're stuck in it. So if being able to have the ability to leave it at times makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about putting it back through the lens of near-death experience, where death is only the death of your meat spacesuit, right? It's not the death of your consciousness. So if you reach a near-death experience to where your spirit essentially leaves your body, then why does it only have to happen with a near-death experience?
Yeah.
You know, why can't you just control that at will?
Yeah.
And I think everybody totally can.
I think so too, and it's from what the research is saying, it just takes practice and it takes focus, and I mean that's pretty much what like monks and stuff are kind of trying to ascend to, is like the conscious control over their physical reality. So being able to levitate, or being able to even these superhuman things that they talk about in, like, you know, the monks doing and saints doing, you know, hundreds and thousands of years ago. I don't doubt that they probably were doing those things.
I don't either. I mean, think about that one story of the, I want to say they were Tibetan monks, where they were able to like hold hands and hum at a frequency and lift these giant rocks, right? Now, you've probably heard that one.
Yeah.
If you've seen Ancient Aliens, which I know you have.
Yeah.
But you think about that, and it goes back to what you were saying about, does your consciousness drive your reality? Where if these people believe so fervently that they have these abilities, they're recreating reality based on their own belief. So with that said, shouldn't we should all be capable in a way of some kind of superhuman ability, because we can drive our own reality.
Right.
Which I just love the idea of.
So yeah, I mean, a scientific explanation of this hypothesis that we're talking about now is like everything is made up of atoms. Atoms are made of electrons and neutrons. Electrons and neutrons are just frequencies of energy that are vibrating at a certain, you know, frequency hertz, to create a rock or whatever. So if you are able to make that same frequency, then why wouldn't you be able to change what that thing is, or be able to manipulate that thing by tuning into that same frequency, as you know we talk about all the time. Yeah, I mean, sounds possible.
I think it's totally possible, especially if you're giving credence to the idea of a simulation, where we're living in a simulation, and then we're given these rules of reality, you know, gravity or inertia, whatever rule you want to go by. But if you're able to change the way you perceive those rules, shouldn't it change the rule itself? So, you know, the people who levitate, you know, they perceive the rule of gravity differently, so they're manipulating it, so now they're levitating. So I think with enough power and maybe enough belief, you can do more than just, you know, lift off the ground.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's a lot of bullshit that goes with that too. Have you ever seen it's like a school of people who believe that they can levitate, but they practice by sitting like Indian style, and they like bounce.
Yeah.
And you're like, nah, that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So
I thought you were going to say X-Men. I was like, yeah, I've seen that movie. No, yeah, it's really fascinating, and I want to try it, but I think I'll just fall asleep every single time. That'd be the hardest part.
I was thinking about it, and where we have these things like the CE5, UAP stuff, astral projection, remote viewing. I think there was one or two others. That should be like a whole video series.
Yeah.
Where we just teach ourselves how to do it.
Just gonna have like 10 videos of us like slowly falling asleep.
We'll play them at hyperspeed. 9 hours later. Yeah, that was a good nap.
Woo, I totally feel refreshed.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that went out of body was that fart that I let.
No, I think there's something to it.
Yeah. I mean, I watched there was one guy, that Area 52 guy.
Oh, I did watch that one.
Yeah, he has a series, but I think it's only like 4 parts that he does. But it was like him going to the Monroe Institute and then like kind of going through the training, and then a few weeks later he had an out of body. Mm-hmm. But he said that he's done it before when he was a kid, accidentally.
That's what I find super, super fascinating and gives a lot of validity to it, is the CIA program, the Gateway program.
Yeah.
Where the CIA had it down to a science of how to astral project.
Yeah.
And all the documents are out there, except for page 25 allegedly, but some people say they have it, some people say it's nothing, whatever. Kind of weird that they put out this huge document but forget that one page.
Well, so I was just watching a documentary this morning called The Third Eye Spies. Mm. And it's what's his name? Russell Turg. Mm-hmm. And he was like one of the scientists that was kind of developed the whole thing. It was him and Hal Puthoff, who is in so many fucking of these stories. You hear his name pops up.
He's like he's kind of like the Stephen Greer of that world, yeah. Where he's kind of in everything,
yeah,
in a way.
But yeah, he was. I lost what you were. I forgot.
No, sorry.
But he's a very important thing. But he was saying that when they declassified all this stuff, so the program ran from 1975 for the CIA. The governmental part ran officially from 1975 until 1995, mm-hmm. where it was. They did a study and said that the psychic stuff that the CIA was doing hasn't produced any meaningful meaningful information, blah blah blah, which we'll go into more in depth in the next episode. So we're dismantling the program, mm-hmm. and so they ended it officially, and then the Freedom of Information Act came out, and then so all the documents were put out, and it was 12 million pages of documents. Like,
that's a lot.
So you guys put out 12 million pages of bullshit? I don't think so.
You guys just recorded 12 million pages of bullshit? Nah, bro.
Yeah. And it was, the program was funded on a year-to-year basis, so it was like, okay, you had no success this year and the previous years, and so you kept it going for 20 years?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you would think after year 3 or 4, they're like, no results, we're going to pull the plug.
Yeah.
But no, bullshit.
Yeah. And is it really shut down? There's so many programs in the government that just transferred from one thing to another that they just renamed it and moved it somewhere else.
Well, with all the Doge stuff going on, of showing all this like wasteful spending, and now they're starting to pay attention to that same thing where these programs, they get shut down, but they don't actually get shut down. It's that name of that program gets shut down, but the funding goes to something else.
Yeah.
With like Project Blue Book turning into OSAP or ATIP or whatever it is, and it's just every few years once it gets discovered, like, shit, the jig is up, change the letters.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Well, it was like, so this project was like, started as Gateway, then turned into Starbeam or
Stargazer.
and then turned into Operation Grill Flame or something like that. So it has
Fucking cool name.
yeah, 6 or 7 different names that it went by or it was known by. I think it was just kind of a diversion tactic to throw people off the scent, so you can't really find anything out about it.
Yeah.
Just like with the UAP, UFO, NHIs.
NHIs, yeah.
The ever-changing acronyms for these things that people are seeing is kind of a diversion tactic, so that when you do like a request for information, you have to use the certain words specifically, or else you're not going to find anything.
Or they'll just give you too much.
Yeah.
I mean, if you file a FOIA on aliens, you're going to get a lot of documents about Mexico. You know?
Probably, yeah.
They're just going to be like, let's fucking bombard it. Well, I do think that program is irrevocably tied to MK Ultra. I think it's just the next phase of MK Ultra. It's just with MK Ultra, they were like, hey, let's see what happens. And to me, I think they got some results. And they were like, okay, let's refine it and try this instead.
Well, that's what Russell Targ was talking about in this documentary, was that when so him and Hal Puthoff got put together and they did this experiment to see, to test psychics. So they had gotten some information that Russia was using psychic spies. And so they wanted to just get a person who claimed to be psychic to see if they could scientifically prove whether they're psychic or not. And so they found this guy who was claiming to be the world's strongest psychic, Ingo Swann. And they put him in this room, and this was at the Stanford Research Institute, and told him to see if he could read where somebody was at. And so Hal Puthoff walked a couple miles away from where they were at, and then so he described, this is kind of talking about remote viewing, but it leads into this whole thing. He described, he did a drawing, made a drawing, this person is is next to some water. I think it might be a fountain, but I don't hear any water running. And he's like, this is the pattern that I see, and drew it was like a square or a circle with almost like a bullseye. All these bullseyes everywhere. And it turned out that Hal Puthoff had walked down about 2 miles away next to this building campus, and all the sidewalks were kind of linked like that with a circle in the middle. And he was standing next to a fountain that wasn't running. The fountain wasn't running, so they were like, what? How did this guy actually see this? We're not sure if this is bullshit. So they ended up putting him in this fucking chamber that was reinforced with lead and cement walls and stuff, so you couldn't get any kind of a signal in or out or what. And they wanted to see if he could physically affect this magnetometer that was supposed to detect nuclear blasts from around the world. And he was able to affect it and make it move. And then he wrote down a bunch of, he actually made the magnetometer move and then drew out the sequence of the readings of what they were reading. And so the CIA got a hold of this study that they did and were more interested in, not that he could make this magnetometer move, but that he could, with his mind, go through these impenetrable walls that you shouldn't be able to see through or look through. It's pretty much like a bunker. And so they called all these people, Hal Puthoff, Targ, got called to go to the Pentagon to kind of have a debriefing with their people at the CIA. And so they told them what they did, showed them, their findings, And so they said, okay, well, we need you to work with this scientist that we have that's kind of working on this same thing. So they introduced him to this scientist, I can't remember his name, but he was the one that was developing all of those drugs that they were using in MK Ultra.
Yeah.
And so they put him down in his basement, and he was some Russian name, I can't remember what his name was. But he was the guy that was developing all these like weird neurotoxic kind of potions for like, you know, making people tell the truth, like truth serums and all these like weird things. But he was like one of the main doctors in the MK Ultra program, so got tied in with that.
Shit writes itself.
Yeah.
Well, it even kind of ties into Montauk in a big way.
Yeah.
Because the same, you know, when you look into it and you see a lot of, you know, the chemical substances and things like that they were using to get these Montauk boys to, you know, kind of open up their mind and shit like that, and using what they believe were gifts that they had, but to me it's more like an ability that came through from trauma.
Yeah.
Because they're all kind of runaways and strays and things like that. So, yeah, again, the whole government through line of, started as MK Ultra, then it became Gateway, and that ties into Montauk and all the other crazy shit that goes on. You can't tell me they're done with that. No.
I'm about 99% sure that it's just changed to a different name. And even that's what Targ was saying is like, does any government program actually ever end?
No. Well, when you think about it, just from an asset management, you know, if you could have either 100 CIA agents in the field doing surveillance and recon and shit, or you can have 100 people who can remote view and never actually be there, or astral project and visualize something and never be there. Why would you ever put, you know, the actual assets on the ground when you can just do it from home?
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's their 9 to 5. It's normal.
Yeah.
Then they go home at the end of the day and clock back in tomorrow. Nobody's in danger.
Yeah.
Nobody ever knows you were there. You can't get caught if you're not physically there, you know.
And according to Joe McGonigal, McGonigal. That's a tough one.
It is, because I kept thinking McGonagall, like Harry Potter.
McGonigal. Yeah. We'll just call him Joe.
Joey.
Old Joey. Who's, I don't want to talk about him though. We'll get into him.
We'll get into that later. One of the more fun things I looked at with the whole astral projection was people who couldn't click back in correctly. Lots of scary stories. And it's kind of take them as you will. But one really stood out to me was this person was able to control their astral projection, was projecting, and they were in like a backyard. And this person could see 3 wolves, and the wolves were like, you know, do you want to play? Want to hear a story? Just being kind of menacing. And this person was like trying to click back into their body, and they couldn't. But the wolves started getting nearer and nearer. And this person was just terrified. Finally clicked back in, but didn't click back in correctly. So this person in their waking life, you know, just moving around day to day, could still see these wolves, and were still fucking with him all the time. I can't remember if it was a man or a woman. It's irrelevant. But yeah, these wolves are just like, everywhere he'd turn, he'd see him, and it would scare the shit out of him. And this went on for a long time, and finally, well, he got like really terrified of astral projecting, until he figured out that's the only way he's going to fix this, was he had to click out and click back in correctly. And then, you know, it should stop. And then eventually it did, and he never astral projected again. Because to me, it makes sense in a way, because you're having to vibrate at this correct frequency to get out of your body. Shouldn't you have to vibrate at that same frequency to get back in? Yeah. But if you're getting back in and you're terrified, you're like trying to do this to get back in, and you just
cut the wrong wire.
You just get back in your body and fuck, shit doesn't work right. Every time you get an erection, your arm goes like this.
Oh shit. I had my fist. I wasn't doing a Nazi salute.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't throwing my heart out to all the Nazis.
How many Nazis can there really be?
There could be a lot of them, but I don't know.
I know it's side note, but it always like...
Hey, Stitch. Got a question here, bud.
How many cells do you guys have?
You mean just in Utah, or?
Well, I mean, my whole family.
Just joking. Stitch isn't that racist.
I do love you, Stitch. Racist. No, I know it's tertiary, or not tertiary. It's completely off to the side, but I think people make a way bigger deal about Nazis than there really needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you can hate whoever you want to hate. I don't care.
I don't either. As long as you're not actually doing anything. I don't care if you're a piece of shit. Yeah. Just don't do anything about it.
You're free to be as ignorant as you want to be.
But really, though, isn't that like the most hated group of people?
Probably. Probably.
Well, it's got to be top 5.
Yeah.
We're not too worried about Nazis.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in middle school, there was a house just down the road, like literally a block away from the school, that all these skinheads lived there. And you know, they were skinheads. They had the swastika up in their window and everything. And it was like every day people were punking the fuck out of them. They were throwing shit at their house. Like they couldn't walk out of the house without being yelled at and talked shit to, or, you know, gang members would come by and beat up their car or just fuck with them all the time. And it's like, you kind of deserve that for being a Nazi. But I imagine that's happening to most all of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox about that.
Yeah, when we were laid off and I got a job doing HVAC, I got put on this job at the AREP facility over there. It's like a lab. They ship and store like lab equipment for like all the medical labs and shit around.
Okay.
And I was working with this guy that was, so he was hired from this company to come install these roll-up doors for their freezer, like big freezer rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And he was definitely like ex-con. And he had like all these like swastika tattoos and like the SS right here on his neck and shit. And so he was like a hardcore skinhead guy. Super nice guy though. Like I worked with him for like five days, and like went out to lunch with him every day and had good conversations about, you know, stuff. And he started talking about like his beliefs and stuff. And I was like, he's like, how do you feel about all that, you know, stuff? And I was like, honestly, I could care less, man. Like you are, I feel like you can feel however you want to feel about whoever. And he's like, I don't hate you. I don't, you know, I think that we're just different. And I was like, yeah, me too. Totally.
Yeah,
I have no ill will towards you. And he's like, I have no ill will towards you either. Like,
yeah, and it's not to defend anybody who's evil. But I just don't think it's like, I don't think it's this big prevalent problem in society that people want to make it out to be.
yeah.
Especially when they go and call Elon Musk a Nazi of all people. To me, it's so silly. The whole hand gesture thing, it was out of pocket, but I don't think that's, you know, the whole salute.
Yeah.
I think it just, people wanted to attach that to him because he's pro-Trump, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not supporting Nazis. I'm not saying they're okay.
I don't really care
But
about
I'm
them.
100% on the same page as you. Hate whoever you want. I don't give a fuck. Just don't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. I can have a conversation about it.
Yeah,
Give
there's
zero fucks.
I am not sensitive about anything related to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool that you and him were able to just sit down and be able to conversate about it instead of...
Like, we were just sitting there joking all day long. I mean, we were installing these freezer draining system and for the refrigeration systems. And then I helped him do the roll-up doors for the two big freezer units that they had. And I worked just fine.
He probably saw you as half white. Like you're half good.
You're halfway good there, brother.
The other half, I don't know. Anyway, astral projection. So I bet there's Nazis that astral project.
Probably. And, you know, I even saw stories about that, you know, that's what, how the evil people in the world are kind of operate. And it's like, these were like a lot of like religious videos talking about like covens of people doing witchcraft and astral projecting and meeting in this group and having like a, you know, almost like they're on different, you know, all around the country, and they astral project and have these meetings, and then they go out, their astral projection bodies go out and do these like nefarious things around the country and meddle with shit. And it's like, I mean, if I'm in this realm of thinking that all these things are possible, I guess maybe, but I don't. It's not as obvious.
I could see it, because it just goes back to, if everybody's capable, that means even the evil people can do it.
Yeah.
I could see it. I think if you're that fucked up, like you're that evil of a person, you don't really have the bandwidth it requires to do something like that. You don't have the ability to focus energy correctly because you're so bound by hate and discontent that I just don't see it working. Yeah. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's improbable.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to think, I mean, I hope that that's not what's going on, but like, what I think is I was just kind of entertained by it, more so than like thought that it was a possibility. Well, I mean,
between that and the Large Hadron Collider would explain why some people's lives just go to shit.
Oh yeah, whenever they turn it on, shit goes. It's going this way, and then it turns on, and then goes this way for a little while. And
I'm never gonna let that go. That's why my life turned to shit. Okay, buddy. You got it.
You are correct, probably.
Oh, my God. Well, I would like to think that in order to kind of be allowed to do that, you can't carry that hate and negativity and shit with you. I feel like, you know, along with the autistic kids and the telepathy tapes, you know, when it's over, it's all love anyway.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's what would be required of you to be able to do that. But then it also kind of goes into the whole nirvana belief, you know, of reincarnating over and over until you get it right. So the people who would like to use that ability for nefarious things, like, no, you're doomed to stay in your spacesuit until it's over, and then you're going to get another one until you get it right.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the Star Wars thing where there's two sides of the Force, though. So, I mean, you know, you're using the Force for good or you're using the Force for evil. I mean, there's got to be a yin to the yang of the...
That's fucking true.
...energy spectrum.
That's true, but maybe that's what the people who astral project and they see demons or the devil...
Real death and hell, I mean...
Maybe that's what they're seeing. It's
you just get
the dark
sucked into that negative vortex black hole.
Yeah. God, why'd you do that? Now I got to think about that all fucking night. Like, God, if you can astral project and then there's like evil astral projectors and you're out there lightsaber fighting in the ether, I'm going to have to write this one down.
Yeah.
We're going to make a movie.
Dun, dun, dun.
Disney, give me a call.
Yeah, astral projection of, you know, dude. Cut, let's fucking write this movie.
We got shit to do. See ya. That'd be cool, though.
Yeah.
Like you're fighting an eternal good versus evil battle, but only when you astral project.
Plane.
So what if you're eliminated in the astral plane? What happens to your body? Then maybe that's what that's how demonic possession happens.
Maybe.
Because you're
something else
eliminated
just
in the
takes
astral plane, so that means your vessel is open, so the demonic evil side gets to take over. Solved it.
Dude, this movie's gonna encapsulate so much.
I dig it. We're gonna have some. We're gonna throw Nazis in there too.
Yep.
Just to go ahead and full circle that one. Yeah. In the movie, you can eat Doritos.
Still haven't eaten a Dorito.
Dude.
Not one fucking Dorito.
I'm about it.
Yeah.
You still got to get that Dorito vodka. I'm sure it tastes terrible.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. Well, Doritos and wine is pretty good. I think it's because it's like, fancy people eat cheese and wine. I drink boxed wine and eat Doritos.
Dude, that's classy.
Classy.
Do you do it while wearing like a bow tie?
No, mostly just a wife beater that has a bunch of stains all over it.
You look like the fucking dude from the Sublime album cover.
Yeah. Drinking fucking wine out of an old big gulp cup.
Tight.
Eating Doritos.
I need to hang out at your house more often.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
Do you think you've ever astral projected?
not that I can remember. I mean, I feel like that would be kind of a memorable thing. But I do know that my brother has.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta hear about it.
Well, I think we talked about it with the demon, the possessions one, where he was. So my brother was kept on being tormented by this shadow figure, and so like every time he would go, like, not every time, but like he'd be ready to go to sleep, and then this shadow figure would jump on him and start choking him, and
Yeah.
And so there was one time where this thing, like, he opened his eyes and saw this shadow figure standing at the side of his bed, and so he rolled over onto his stomach, and then this thing, like, punched him in the, like, kidney punched him while he was laying there, and so he, like, rolled over onto his back and was getting ready to sit up, and this thing jumped on top of him and started choking him. He could feel it, and he could only see like a shadow. And so he's wrestling with this thing for a few minutes. Finally, is able to sit up and push this thing off of him, and the shadow like lands on the ground and then goes under the bed. And so he's like laying there and pushes this thing off of him, and then like goes to turn to lay back down, and notices his body laying there still. And so he's like freaking out. He's sitting up looking at his body still laying there in the bed. And so he lays back down in the position that he's in, and like sits back up and looks there, and his body's still there. Lays back down, and then finally sits back up and looks back, and he's back in his body. So like to him, he's awake the whole time. He hasn't fallen asleep or anything, but to me, that's kind of similar to all these cases of, astral projection, but also, I mean, that leads into the sleep paralysis stuff too, but...
And I've thought that for a while. Those two things, they have to be related in my mind. Because, and I try to put it into perspective, but now that we've kind of talked about, like, the good versus bad side of astral projection, thinking about the things that you see when you're in sleep paralysis, or the things that the people who have it see, the Hat Man or the monkey or the witch or whatever. What if those are just like entities who are prowling, like, oh, you're able to astral project, but it comes across as sleep paralysis because they're attacking you as soon as you're like in that phase where you're going to do it.
Yeah, as soon as you're susceptible to that energy.
Yeah. Like, again, maybe they want to take your vessel, they want to drive your meat spacesuit while you're out, or they're trying to keep you in your body for a purpose.
Yeah. I mean, and if the theory of like when you're astral projecting, you can go anywhere in no amount of time, I mean, would explain why these entities have been seen around the world by
everywhere.
You know, all types of people throughout history.
Yeah,
seeing the same things.
People who have, like, and I've said this many times, people who live in villages who've never even seen a TV see the same thing as, you know, a person in America or whatever part of the world they're from, with no means of communication with each other.
Yeah.
But they manage to see the same thing.
Yeah.
But it also kind of begs the question of, you know, if, like, the monkey that sits on your chest and then you can't move, maybe it's there to stop you from astral projecting, but what would be the purpose? And if they're trying to get into your vessel, then they would let you, and then they would just jump in, right? So my thinking is maybe it's not this evil entity that we think of. Maybe it's some form of, like, police that says you're not, they know that you're not able to project and click back in correctly, so they stop you from doing it until you're ready. But they just use the most, like, scary version of it to keep you away from it until like you're ready to kind of face your fear and explore it. Just a thought that I just had.
It's another movie, dude.
Yeah, we're gonna throw that in the movie.
Yeah, Astral Police.
Astral Police. Oh shit, Spence, who are you gonna go as today? I'm gonna totally do the monkey. Like, I was thinking about rocking Hat Man tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Astral Police on right after Swamp Cops.
Catch it tonight.
9 Central Time.
Expanding your consciousness with Astral Police.
But with 2 S's.
Yeah.
So even if
Astral Patrol.
if you get out of your body, you're getting something in your body. Okay. You get a pick.
Watching your body as you sleep.
That's a different show.
Yeah.
Unrelated. That one's on a different network.
Yeah, and how much of these fucking astral projectors are just fucking creeps, dude? That's scary.
I can't say, like, I would think it's more in remote viewing, because I think of remote viewing as more of a physical aspect. But, you know, if you're able to do that, you know, would you fuck with other people? I wouldn't do anything like dirty, but I would definitely fuck with everybody.
I mean, I would definitely try to, and like in those Area 52 things, they kind of talk about that, trying to go out of body and then, like, try to see other people that are there, because I mean, you go there and there's a group of, you know, 20 people or whatever that are there at the same time doing all the same shit that you're doing. So potentially, if you go out of body, you might be able to see one of these other people's energies out and roaming the hallways as they're trying to do the same thing, you know. So they talk about, like, one of them had a story about, like, going, like, getting up and then going through the halls and then seeing somebody else, but that other person was just, like, not even aware that they were there.
Yeah.
So it was like, after the session, they went and talked to the other person and said, "Did you go out of body?" And like, "Yeah, I did go out of body. I was at this part of the building. Like, I totally saw you." And she's like, "Oh, I didn't see anybody."
Well, that really kind of leads back into the telepathy tapes, you know, where the kids meet at the hill.
Yeah.
But the one lady was able to visit it by accident. So that just makes me think that what they're doing is actually astrally projecting into this place that they've all created with their collective consciousness. And this woman happened to stumble on it, you know, because she was energetically linked to these people.
Yeah.
So, mystery solved on that one.
Maybe it should be called Astral Detectives.
Ooh. You son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah. Solving crime.
Solving astral crime. Right on after Swamp Cops.
So many great ideas.
Dude.
We need a bigger whiteboard.
We're just gonna make this whole fucking wall a big whiteboard. So if that's the case, if you can astral project and you can see, let's say, a live person. Let's say I went into a state of unconsciousness and I astral projected. And I could see you and what you're doing in the same room. But I can, in some way, interact with things. Would that be a ghost?
I don't know. I mean, technically, it would be, in my mind, considered spirit activity.
Well, what if, and I'm only having a thought here, what if a ghost is created because somebody is astrally projecting, but their vessel is destroyed, so they have nowhere to go back to? Astral detectives.
So many times.
Dude,
yeah.
We're just solving the fucking universe right here.
Yeah.
You guys got any more questions? Just let us know. We got it.
Well, isn't that what the term poltergeist actually... Oh, poltergeist means active spirit, noisy spirit.
Noisy spirit.
But they use it in the term of, like, somebody's psychic energy inside the house is doing all these things that, like, make noise and shit like that. I mean, that's what most of the poltergeist scientific researchers claim a poltergeist spirit is actually somebody that's living. Their energy is somehow manipulating, unbeknownst to them, like the things around them.
Yeah, and
Telekinetically moving shit.
well, you even going a step further is you think about, like, Gettysburg has all these crazy, like, ghost experiences and spirits and things like that, where we kind of round back to near-death experiences where, you know, let's say a soldier on the battlefield gets hit and he goes down, and maybe he doesn't die, but he has this near-death experience, but before he can kind of click back into his body is killed. You know, a cannonball comes in and just fucking kills him.
Yeah.
Now he's like, fuck! I was supposed to go back there and I don't know what to do. So he had a near-death experience that forced him into an astral projection, but then he had nowhere to go back to.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how ghosts are created.
And in that energy space, does time actually move the same? And so it's like, you might be stuck in that war. You know, you think it's been 15 minutes, you're crouched down in the bushes, and you look up, and then all of a sudden it's
200 years have passed.
Yeah, 200 years later, and you're like, oh, fuck, what are those?
Well, I mean, we perceive time as linear, but that doesn't mean it is. I mean, we've talked about this a bunch, where there's a lot of different theories about how time works, or dilation near black holes, or time running in two parallel directions, all that stuff. So it's like, once you escape the construct of our reality, is time even really a thing?
Yeah.
Because time is energy in motion.
Yeah.
So if you're no longer bound to, you know, a physical plane of Earth, then time's nothing.
Exist. Yeah.
Neither is space, because time and space are essentially two sides of the same coin. So that's how you're able to, you know, slip between the cracks between worlds, or phase through walls, fly around. So there it is. Ghosts are just astral projections.
I mean, what's the difference between spirit activity and astral projection anyways? I mean, if you are able to go and see things without your physical body, your consciousness is able to travel. Could your energy be perceived by somebody who's awake and living and, like, in the physical world? I think so. If that person is kind of gifted in, or has that bandwidth to be able to receive that energy.
100%.
You know.
I think even if you don't have the bandwidth, you could probably perceive it, especially if you have no bandwidth.
Yeah.
You know, where, like, I believe children can actually see a lot more in terms of, like, spirits and ghosts and things like that. So it's like they don't have a bandwidth because they've never been taught there's boundaries.
Right.
They just have a big open mind. So it's either they have no bandwidth or theirs is infinite.
Yeah.
So
they don't have the filters that are
yeah
that we view the world through the filters that we kind of adapt for ourselves.
Yeah, and children really don't necessarily have a fight or flight experience, or a barometer for that. They just experience things as they come, and they build those instincts. So maybe they see a ghost and they're just like, oh shit, that's grandpa or whatever. So yeah, I think it stands to reason that they actually could.
Yeah. Solved it.
Case
closed. Yeah, I was listening to this thing that was talking about the way that we perceive reality, and it was talking specifically about the function of our physical eyes. Like, our eyes are actually, because of the way our eyes are shaped, if you were to see what our eyes actually see, there would be a big hole in the middle. Mm-hmm. Just because the cornea creates a big hole or whatever, I don't know. And so your eyes are always shifting back and forth, and then it creates the image of a solid picture. Mm-hmm. So what we're actually only seeing is a portion of what's really there, and everything else is being filled in with your mind because you kind of have seen what's around. And so, like, are we like setting up these filters as we move through time in our lives, setting up these filters to be able to see what we actually only feel is real? And are these things really there, and we're just like tuning them out because we don't believe in them?
Yeah, that's a solid point. I do know from a physical aspect, I was reading this article this doctor published where he said your eyes are the most foreign part about your body. If your nervous system found out about your eyes, you would go blind because your body would try to like poison them and they would rot out, essentially. Mm. So it does kind of stand to reason that is like the weirdest part of our physiology, but it's the one part that we have so much perception through, so we rely on it so much, but it's such a flawed system. Yeah.
Well, it's like I watched that video, then I was thinking about it. I was like, maybe that's why, like, the difference between men and women. Like, you see, like, most men are very, like, things have a certain space, right? Things have a certain place, and if they're not in that place, I don't know where the fuck it is.
Yeah.
And so, like, I put my wallet in the same place every day. Like, I go home, set my wallet there, and I know that's where it is. If I go home and I don't see it there, I can't find it. And so it's like, okay, yeah, well, I'll ask my wife, hey, have you seen my wallet? Yeah, it's on the floor right there. Oh, fuck, right next to where it was.
Yeah.
It just, one of the cats knocked it off of the thing, but I can't see it because it's not where it was.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't exist anymore in my perception. I can't see it on the floor right there because it was right here. Mm-hmm. And the women have like a thing where everything is related to an emotion or like a feeling about something, or everything is in relation to something else. So if you ask a guy for directions, they'll give you coordinates. Yeah. If you ask a woman for directions, they'll say turn left by the big tree, turn right at the big house. Everything is in relation to something else. Guys, like, so is that, our own filters being put up, the filters that we've developed being put up to perceive reality in our own personal way, and other people just have their filters are set up different so they can see different things and move through this three-dimensional space that we call reality in different ways?
I think so, and it does stand to reason because men are more logic built, where, like you said, if somebody asks us, how to get to a place, it's distinct coordinates. It's, hop on here, take this freeway, get off on this street, make a right, blah, blah, blah. And women do have that, like, emotional kind of almost diffractor in a way of being like, oh, turn at this particular tree because they have something specifically tied to that tree, where it's almost, they perceive that one detail and that's what they grasp onto. Mm-hmm. But it also kind of makes sense of why when you see TV shows about mediums or fortune tellers or tarot readers or whatever, it's almost always a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, Miss Cleo was in the business for like 30 years. Call now for your free reading.
For your free tarot reading.
So, you know, since you kind of put it through that lens, it does make more sense to me that women are more capable of seeing things outside of a logic-based perception of feeling a spirit or an entity or an astral projection or whatever. And I also got to say, you know, tying back to the sleep paralysis, several people have talked to me about it since that episode came out of, oh, I suffer through the same thing. Every single one of them's a woman. So, and it's not like a ton of people, it's like 5, but it's all women that say I suffer from the same thing. So it really is interesting that you bring that up, and then, you know, throwing these details into it now of like, maybe women have a better grasp on, you know, the kind of paranormal aspect of life than men do.
So they were talking about that. I can't remember. I want to say Joey, Big Joey.
Big Joe.
And we'll just talk about him. He was saying that women and gay men have a higher aptitude for psychic abilities than straight men do. And I think it's mostly because the way that people are just tuned naturally.
Yeah, I mean, something about liking penis makes you see ghosts, I guess. So let's check the markers. Can you see ghosts? Well, I don't know. Okay, do you like penis and appletinis?
I fuck with the appletini, dude.
I will too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I haven't tried penis, but
not since scout camp anyway.
Heard it's great.
That wasn't for me. It's kind of like Brussels sprouts. I'm kidding. Nothing ever happened. But yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, if you're a woman and you have sleep paralysis or you see ghosts, you know, let us know. It's important.
Let us know. We'll do some research.
Other than that, I think we solved the mystery of astral projection.
Mm-hmm.
And
stay tuned for our series on learning to astral project, where we'll be drinking appletinis and taking penis.
Just sitting there holding your own with an appletini. I love this one. I don't know about you guys.
I guess it'll be like us, like sipping appletinis, looking at each other's dicks, like that's not working yet.
Maybe I haven't had enough appletinis. Make this one stronger. Yeah, no, I am glad we decided to split the conversation between astral projection and remote viewing, because when we first talked about it, my first thought was like, it's basically the same thing. But then I really thought about it more, and I went, no, there's definitely a demarcation from one to the other. Mm-hmm. They're very similar. They're kind of like a brother and sister thing.
Yeah, it seems like the means to doing either one of them is kind of through the same channels, but like they're definitely distinct in your own capabilities of doing them or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
And we should still do a video series of us trying it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that as a whole nother season. Like one season will be CE5 stuff, and then one is astral projection, one is remote viewing.
We got a lot of stuff in the pipeline.
We do. We got to like pace ourselves. We don't want to become full-on gods like in a year.
Yeah, I mean, it might take 6 or 7 months, but we're gonna have chairs just floating.
We don't even have the cameras on tripods.
We're just beaming straight into people's minds.
Yeah. Just the whole world has to stop every time we do an episode, and they're just like...
And really, we don't even have to talk about doing it.
Ooh.
We just have to know that we're already there, dude.
Affirmations.
Is this chair even here? I think this chair is only there because I think it's there.
Yeah. It's only because you're thinking to the bounds of this reality. I am more than just this chair.
I am more than this physical reality.
I am 6'3". All right, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Let's pull that one there and do the next one.
10-4.
10-4. Okay, love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.